Welcome back. This is really just going to be, well, as it says right there on the screen, this is me sharing my house hacking journey. So, for reference, I'm in a house hack right now, but we'll get there. 2015, I bought a duplex. That was my very first property. I used an FHA loan. I moved into one side. I rented the other side. Now, without getting too crazy into this, I used an FHA loan because I was told by a lender that you can only use the VA loan once. Don't waste it on this little duplex. Obviously, that is incorrect. We all know that, but it is what it is. So at the time, that's what I thought, and I used the FHA loan. Now, bought that duplex, lived in one half, rented the other, then I moved out, it cash flowed, boom. Now, we'll dig into these ones a little bit more here in a minute. Second, 2016 to 2019, we lived in Marine Corps base housing on Kaneohe Bay, K-Bay in Hawaii. Couldn't afford to buy a house out in town. The VA was capped lower than the local area, and I would have had to drive 45 minutes. My ex-wife was pregnant at the time, and we didn't want to have that, hour and a half commute both ways, hour and a half total every day. And so it is what it is. 2019 to 2021, I did an oceanside house hack by Camp Pendleton. So I rented a house for 2 years, and with the agreement that I could sublet rooms. And so I Airbnb'd 2 bedrooms for a little while, then I Airbnb'd one and rented the other out to a good friend, John Lalonde, who's a war room member, for some of the other time. And I basically lived for free. I had some expenses, but I'll dig into that. All right, so then 21 to, that says 23, but it's obviously the year 24. Oh, that's why I changed it up. I'm looking at the slide deck, sorry. I forgot that I edited this. So 21 to 23, the upstairs of this is an Airbnb that I rented out, and the downstairs is my office. Then when I was getting divorced in mid last year, I moved into the Airbnb office. I actually have a studio, like a tiny home out back, and so it was a woodshed. I converted it into a studio. I live in the studio, I use the office, and I Airbnb the upstairs. And I'm actually looking at renting out those bedrooms individually to like single entrepreneurs in the area, and then still having the office, maybe even renting a room down here so that it's 5 and I actually cash flow on this thing, and the studio. We'll see what happens. But all that being said, the future plan is a barn dominium plus a triplex. So this is kind of crazy, and we'll see what happens. I want to build on like 20 acres a barn dominium that I live in, so I can have all my toys in the house. I can entertain, I'll have a pool, like all the things. It'll be a really cool pad. And then I want to have enough land to actually have fun. And then in like the opposite corner, I want to build a triplex. And my plan is to do all this with a construction loan and then refinance into the VA loan, because you can't purchase with a VA loan, but you can't build with a VA loan like detached properties. But you can purchase up to 4 units on the same parcel, even if they're different buildings. Even if it was 4 single families on the same tax parcel, you could do that. So my hope is to build out with a construction loan, then refinance into the VA, 100% cash out, and move along with my life. So, all right, that's my overview. So a little bit deeper, right? That first duplex I bought for $79,900. I then sold it a year and a half ago for $165,000. I didn't actually live in it for 2 full years, so I wasn't able to get a full capital gains tax write-off on that, but it is what it is. Rent at purchase, one side was $475, and my principal, interest, taxes, insurance was $585. I had been renting a $550 apartment, so I was like, well, I'm living at a 2-1 for $550 a month. If I buy this one, it's $585, but this person's paying $475. That's a win. Now, the rent at the sale, so $475, it slowly increased, and then I rented both sides, so it actually got up to $1,300 a month, and it was cash flowing on average from the day I moved out in 2016 all the way up until I sold it in 23, I believe. It was cash flowing around $200 to $300 a month, much closer to that $300 a month towards the end, and it actually kind of, as interest rates went up, so did rent, so it kind of tracked and stayed along that area. The second one here is the rental arbitrage. So that was in 2019, and that says to present. I clearly didn't change that. I stole pieces of this from an old presentation. Not presently in the rental arbitrage. That's my San Diego house. But it was $3,000 a month. Got a 2-year lease because I said, hey, I'll sign right now if I can do 2 years if you allow me to sublet. And they allowed me to sublet. And so I told them, if you allow me to rent rooms on Airbnb when my family's out of town, and then I just didn't tell them my family's going to be out of town 95% of the time because they moved back to Missouri and they would just visit periodically. For that last year and a half, I was active duty. So $3,000 a month, plus I had $500 for internet, cable, utilities, trash, whatever. Now, I averaged $2,400 a month on Airbnb. I actually would have been higher, but I factored in the fact that I rented one bedroom for $1,000 to a friend, and then the other room was Airbnb, so I averaged that over the entire time. It probably would have been about $3,000 had I had both bedrooms going full time. But then you figure 60% of the house I could write off as a business expense because it was rented, so that's like common areas, kitchen, living room, garage, because I parked outside, everything essentially but the master suite, the office, was able to be rented or written off as an expense. That's $2,100 a month that I could write off as expenses, and so that's $630 a month saved in taxes. So if you do that, it's like $3,030, and then I was like $3,500 all in on internet, utilities, whatever. I also was able to write off the internet and the utilities and everything as expenses. So realistically, it was pretty close to break even once you factor taxes in on this. But I digress. Even if it was $3,500 out of pocket, $2,400 in, that means I'm living in a 4.3 brand new condo house with pool, hot tub, all the amenities for what, $1,100 a month in San Diego County, Oceanside. That's not bad at all. And I was able to save, my BAH was like $3,100 or $3,200, so I was able to save that $2,100 every single month. So pretty close to free, but not necessarily, but depending on how you skin it, it was awesome either way. Third, we've got this guy, which I bought for $365, 5% down, conventional, $18,250 out of pocket. Couldn't appraise for the VA because I wasn't a funny story. I was unbankable. We'll talk about that, but essentially because my W-2 was ending, I wasn't able to. Long story short, I had to gift $17,000 or $18,250 to my ex-wife so she could do the 5% down conventional. Then I had to refinance it into an investor loan and pull the money back. Now, at 2022, I refied. I appraised at $425, 15% investor loan. It was 85% was at $361,250. So I actually cleared enough to pay myself back out of the gift. So $14,500. So not necessarily all of it back, but most of myself. So closer to $19,000 back. I should just read my own slides, I guess. Look, essentially, I'm into this house for $0 right now. Plus, any maintenance I've done or whatever. But the Airbnb brought in $34,600. VRBO, $6,409. So I brought in $41,000 last year. I don't know why I don't have commas in there. That's annoying to me. But $41,000. And then my cleaning fees and costs are already accounted for in that. That's the net income from the cleaning fees. Now my principal, interest, taxes, insurance, $2,600 a month. Sales tax from Missouri plus internet, utilities, blah blah blah, $40,000. So I netted a whopping $319 on this house last year. I will say that doesn't account for principal pay down. At $2,600 a month, I am paying $500 to $1,000 a month down on the principal. So it's really probably closer to like $6,000 to $12,000 that, or $6,000 to $10,000, $600 to $10,000, whatever you get it, $6,000 to $10,000 that I'm netting on this house as of last year. Obviously, things will change over the years, but ultimately, this house is pretty close to break even, if not completely break even, and it's a really nice house. So I believe in the appreciation in this area. This is one of the nicer neighborhoods in town. All my neighbors are like retirees or professors or lawyers or whatever. I've got a big backyard. Well, I have a backyard, and then I have a floodplain behind that no one can build in. So like we get deer and turkey and crap in the back, and then it's a 4,800 square foot, 6'3.5", but the upstairs is a 3,200 to 4'2.5", and the downstairs is 1,600 2'1", and then I have the studio out back. That's another 250 square feet that I'm chilling in, and so the studio is super cool. It's actually my favorite part of the house. But that being said, basically break even to live in the house that I currently live in, which is pretty sweet. So I love it. That's kind of my experience. Those are my 3 house hacks to date. I'm going to do more. We'll dig into a bunch of other really cool examples from other members as we go. But I just wanted to show you, like, personally, I've kind of done all of it. I've done the duplex. I've done the like live in the basement, like kind of duplexy office hack, and then I've done the rent a house single family and rent out bedrooms. So I've done the single family and the duplex hack, as well as helping people do others. So not my first rodeo with the house hacking, and I've really enjoyed it.